What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to the Just Build It channel. In today's video, we're going to be cutting, notching, and re-welding the oil pan for the LS Miata. We're going to be doing this with some basic hand tools so you guys can follow along at home. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. Step 1, let's get this dirty oil pan cleaned. We're going to go ahead and degrease the whole oil pan so we have a clean part to work on. So as you guys seen, what we first tried to do is use some Dawn soap. It's really good at degreasing. And I sat there and scraped relentlessly for I don't know how long, a good hour and a half. When it came down to it, I had to pull out the big guns. The pressure washer has never failed me in ripping stuff off, but in this case, for some reason, this stuff is on here really well and it's not wanting to come off. So let's jump in the car, let's take a ride over to AutoZone and get some purple power so we can go ahead and blast this stuff off of here. So I tried out the purple power and the pressure washer and it started raining. This is about as far as I've got with it. I'm not going to go ahead and try to clean it any more than this. We'll go ahead and cut it and then we'll wire wheel around the edges so we get really good clean metal to weld to. My SD card got corrupted and I lost some of the footage. So after getting this nice and flat, I got me a piece of poster board, a big piece, laid it over it, went ahead and traced around it with a pen. Then took a piece of flat aluminum, it's about a 1/4 inch piece, and then traced the pattern over the piece of aluminum and cut it with the jigsaw. So unfortunately my SD cards kept getting corrupted because I have some really cheap SD cards. So I went to Walmart and got a new set, name brand SD card, so we shouldn't have any more corruptions there. So what we're going to do next is we're going to end up cutting this across here, getting rid of this whole section, lowering it a little bit so our subframe can fit through here. As this was a truck oil pan, now we're converting it to, it's going to be a super custom one-off Miata oil pan in a sense. So we cut this off as you guys saw. Welded the top piece on. Now let's go ahead and move on to this next section here. As you guys seen in the last clip, we went ahead and cut this whole section out. So our next step is to get a piece of poster board, create a template so we can cut it out and get it all welded up. Here's the piece we went ahead and traced. Now it's cut out. So it fits here really well, but our only problem is we need a little bit of space to weld. So we want to actually be welding directly on top of this flat surface, not on the edge. So I'll go around and trim this whole thing just ever so slightly to make it a little bit smaller than what it needs to actually be to fit the whole thing. That way we have a space to weld around. Alright, as you guys can see this pattern now, what I've done is I went around the whole thing and trimmed it just a little bit so we can be able to center right on the middle of this aluminum. So when we come in to weld it, we have a nice clean area where we just grind it down. We cut this section out. We'll be able to weld directly to that, which is the cleanest point of this. So when you're welding aluminum, especially cast, it's very important to have really clean metal. So we'll also go around this whole thing with the wire wheel to get it super clean and prepped for welding. So this is our piece of 1/4 inch aluminum. What we're gonna do now is grab our pattern, place it on here, trace it out, and then we'll go ahead and grab the jigsaw and cut this pattern out. Alright, so first try, we got it pretty close. I just have to trim up some edges that I couldn't get with the jigsaw. But it looks like it's lining up great all the way around. We have really good alignment. So our next step is, I went ahead and realized something once I placed this here. I realized that we need to cut another 1/4 inch off the bottom of this so we can butt up right there, and then we can put a weld across the bottom. So any other ways it would be sticking up too high. So what I'm going to do is I got my Sharpie here. We're going to go ahead and go across this just like that, and then we'll cut that, and that will give us exactly what we need right there. Bend the blade a little bit, but it's okay, we're done. So we actually just cut a structural part of this oil pan out, and when you're welding any type of material, it doesn't matter if it's steel, aluminum, stainless steel, whatever the case is, you always have to make sure that you clamp your part down, especially when we're working with a flange surface. So this surface mates to the engine, which actually has to be very precise and flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to clamp this thing down to the weld table, and we're going to weld it very strategically. So we're going to weld small sections at a time and jump around and let it cool, and then weld more, let it cool, and just jump around. You'll see. Alright guys, so now I got all the clamps set up all the way around the whole thing. Alright guys, as you can see, the final welds are done. Next step is I'm going to have to drill and top a hole so we can have an oil drain for this. That's a really important part to an oil pan, as you guys know. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you find value in the content. Click on the next video here if you want more on the V8 Miata.